we got to do more because we want to do what the majority wants, right? Isn't that what we're all here for? We're not here to do the 1% bidding, and that's the failure of this. The money's controlled, the 1% being in charge of doing what our future destiny is. And that's where our failure is. It's allowing the money to determine why we're doing something a certain way to profit them. And it's the big money. Look how much money was given to the Supreme Court ruling that just happened. How many millions of dollars, Kelly, would you say that was? For the paying for the Supreme Court lawsuit again about Maui County saying it's okay to pollute our coastal waters.
Oh, that was $4 million.
$4 million. Yeah, so $4 million. The money from the mainland, which is the big money, the 1% money, came here and said that's what we want, because if we can pass this law that the Supreme Court would rule not in the people's favor of being allowed to pollute.
But that wasn't big money starting that. That was our own people.
That was our own mayor.
White, Mike White was into it, and Mike and Ricky, and
the only reason that they were behind it was because of the big money behind them.
No, it's not. Those guys were just all about keeping things the way they were, keeping their dynasty going, fighting. I mean, they saw it as a win-lose situation. They're like, we're gonna win.
No, but why would they want to win about being okay to pollute our Aina? Why would they want to be okay with that? Because
look at what Mike White does for a living. You know, he's a GM of a hotel. He doesn't want to have anything stop his operations. He doesn't want environmental regulations.
Oh, because they're pumping stuff in there, it could stop his operation?
I don't know what
it's just all the sewage costs here are kind of crazy. I mean, when you have your septic tank pumped, it doesn't always go to the wastewater treatment plant. Sometimes it just goes into a hole in the ground that pumps out into the ocean.
It goes out to Waihata.
No, but
and
the
you know the state of Hawaii
When
said, 2 miles, pump it out, let it go out 2 miles, out of sight, out of mind, it's okay.
Yeah. And
why is our coastal waters all degraded from, I've been coming here since the 70s, and absolutely, it was an aquarium in the 70s. You would go out, it would be like you're swimming in an aquarium.
Well, if
and
you
now,
pump poop in
and
there
it's so, no, but it's so in our face that we're destroying the future generations of all these other kids that are going to be growing up, and they're going to look back at our generation and say, how could you guys have polluted?
Well, that's why we fought it, and we
and
we
we're
got
in
the vote we
middle
got.
of the Pacific Ocean,
But
where the
Donnie,
cleanest water.
you got to look at who these people are that have been on the council up until this last one. When we overturned the council, well, we didn't.
We
really
got rid of
overturn
Gladys Bias. We got rid of Mike White. We got rid of.
Thought we did.
We thought we got rid of Mike White, but he's been seen around town. You're the one that told me he was having lunch with Stacey
he's
Carvello.
behind the scenes.
Yes.
So, but in our last term when Alika and I were on together, I went to Mike White and I said, I'm willing to sit down with Sierra Club and Surf Right. I know all those guys. Let's sit down, work out a solution. Stop this court battle. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. We could lose hundreds of millions of dollars if we don't win this case. Just don't worry about it. You weren't around when it started. He just basically brushed me off like that.
People don't want things to change who are here. That you even see this in the pandemic. Even though things aren't going as well as they could be going, but there's such fear of losing of what the past is. So it's hard to be progressive through that. And then people who are in business, even though they struggle and there are all these strange, convoluted pathways that they have to walk through to be successful, they don't want to change that, because once they have it figured out, that gives them comfort. It's just that.
It's bizarre that they call themselves Maui for change, and really all they want to do is keep things the same.
And that's hard. When I'm campaigning, I'm coming out and being like, I'm a new face, and that scares people significantly. And I don't think there's a lot of places that newness.
Because it's so bad that they don't want it to get worse.
But you're not. But the message should be, I'm not new to the island. I'm just new to politics.
Right. And that's what I try to say.
Yeah. Because that's what we need. I mean, Gabe in his first 2 campaigns, and you remember this. He did this when we were on Molokai. One of the first 2 sentences out of his mouth is, "I'm from Ohio," and I'm like, "Why are you saying that, Gabe? No one wants to hear that. That's not helpful."
No.
The minute you open your mouth, we know you're not from here. Don't worry. You never have to confess
your
it.
skin color.
It's the first 3 words out of your mouth. They hear your accent immediately, and they know you're from Ohio. So don't worry.
That's.
It's just I see it, and it's hard too, because the main voting blocks are very old. It's just this old school. I mean, even the ladies that I work with all the time, I mean, we work 6 hours a week together, and they still do not
Want to
do
change.
not want to change.
No change.
Yeah, it's very
They're
very
afraid of
scary.
change because it's bad and they don't want it to get worse.
Well, there's I think too.
You know, and if Victorino were smart, which he's not, he would be so in favor of this county manager because it's right up his alley. All you have to do, you just have to hire a smart person to run the county. All you have to do is go around schmoozing people and shaking hands,
And
which
make
is
you
what
look-
you do well.
And it will make you look so good.
Yeah, I mean, if he
yeah.
was smart, he would just be all over this.
Did you get the pamphlet from the previous 4 mayors? Did you get that mailer yet?
No.
It has
The 4 mayors?
Linda Lingle and
Yeah.
Alan and
No, I never seen that.
who else is
There's a lot that different places.
The last
don't get.
Charmaine
Mayors.
Tavares.
yes. And they're like, we as mayors, and I'm going, you
Well,
guys
yeah.
are the ones that
You're the biggest cronies of them all. That's why, I mean, look at Charmaine. She hired her in-house lover to be our managing director.
I was like, you guys are the ones that made it this way. And that's what I was trying to do. So when I'm talking to people like my friends that I volunteer with, I say, look, this isn't how it was. We're actually just trying to fix what has happened over the last like 20, 30 years. This isn't something that originally when the charter put into place, it was meant to be that the mayor appointed all their friends and family members who've never done anything. That wasn't the original intention. So we're actually just trying to make everything more clear. And
I would have to disagree. I think
You think
that's
it was?
I think that's what largely what was happening back then because when the charter was originated, Maui was such a small place. You couldn't
Everybody
hire
was your
anybody who
friend,
wasn't
so-
related to you or your friend. But the thing is, we've gotten so big now, that's
Yeah.
not working anymore because those people are not qualified to handle a community this big and our issues that are so big.
And that's why we want to appoint a county manager that will be the professional that has experience with doing this, running a multi-billion, almost $1 billion corporation.
Right.
And
Well,
that's what we're getting a
and-
mayor that doesn't even need a high school education,
And
right?
somebody who who understands strategic planning and can go through
Everything.
every department should go
Every-
through strategic planning, set high goals for themselves,
Right.
and then have benchmarks.
Our
and see
failure
what
was
they're
that we
reaching.
didn't put the mayor up on, we put him high on the pedestal, but we didn't ask for his qualifications. We just put him up on that pedestal.
We
And-
never do.
No.
So
It's a popularity
I should have
contest.
brought that other
Yeah.
one because it also
I saw
says
it.
in there, what was the thing?
Wow, it was Charmaine was in there, huh, with Alan.
All the Republicans.
Oh, wow.
You know, Eleanor's a Republican, Linda Lingo's a Republican, Charmaine's a Republican.
Well, they're just all good old boys. That's all it means. But yeah, Republican, it doesn't really matter nowadays. It's just you're
All
either good or
three?
you're
Or
bad.
who was the other fourth one?
Who was the 4th one on there?
Was it Victorino?
No, because I don't think he would be allowed to
Was
be
it
on there.
Apana?
Apana, Kimo Apana.
Maybe I didn't even look at it because I
4.
was so upset.
So
I kind of
Apana,
just pushed it off.
Alan, Charmaine Tavares,
Linda Lingo.
Linda Lingle.
And 3 of those are Republicans.
I think that
They're the ones saying no?
Well, they said on the back, you know, the county isn't a corporation. That's the part that you reminded me of. The county isn't a corporation. It's a government, and it shouldn't be asked to run like a corporation. And
And that's exactly the opposite that Linda Lingo used to say when she
Yeah.
was mayor. She used to talk about running it like a business.
right,
So that's completely.
It has to be run like a business because otherwise you're gonna not get successfulness. You gotta
That's why
act
things
like
don't-
you
things
gotta
don't get
be
done.
successful. Yeah,
Because
have
you
to
don't,
be
you're in a business, if someone doesn't get something done that they're supposed to, they get fired or
you
replaced.
So letters to the editor should be shared on Facebook and then boosted.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just like your thing, the dark money. That I told him, hey, go boost that,
we gotta
share
boost
that,
it.
and boost
Yeah,
it.
We gotta
Right.
boost it. Coming from you especially. Yeah.
something else too is just getting people to talk in person to the people that they know, because that is the number one way to influence votes.
I'm posting as much as I can, and I'm saying to everybody share. I hope
Right.
they do because the only way we're going to get our word and our point out and our educational direction that we need to go right now, we got to use it smarts. We got to be smarter than the money.
Well,
The
and we
money's controlled so much.
we have until Saturday until 30. Historically, we're seeing 30% of the ballots returned
by then.
by 1 week after
Yeah,
they come
we're,
out.
We're right at the verge right now.
And then it's a trickle, and then you see a little hump again at the very end.
I think it's going to be quicker this time because of the issues with the post office. I think, and a lot of people that already know who they're voting for.
They might already.
I mean,
be
I've
voting.
already voted. I just have to put it in the mail tomorrow.
So I've agreed to spend some money with a Filipino radio station.
yeah.
yeah, Phil
Filipino
Lam.
radio station, and he's going to talk about this farm. He's going to talk about the grants that are out there, and how you're a perfect example that needing a grant. Look at you need to start this thing, the ball rolling here, and you need some investment from the county. I mean, that's what our tax dollars should be going for, is helping.
And they should be, those grants, if we had a county Department of Agriculture, they should
Absolutely.
be going through the county department, because when we
Right.
pick another agency like MEO, they're trying to take 10% of that.
Yeah.
10% of 2.1
And
million,
they're-
2.5 million
and-
is 250,000.
Yeah,
That's
which
another
could have been
twen-
that
that's
could
an-
have been
yeah.
staff.
Yeah, it could have been more grants.
And they're the wrong department. They're transportation MEO. So why would we want them involved with agriculture?
Well, we
That's
put
the
it
thing.
with them because we didn't want it with that.
No,
with
but you
the
have to
administration.
choose somebody. You have
didn't
to
want it-
choose.
we
That
didn't
was,
want it
that
with
was
the
actually a
admin.
better move.
Yeah, yeah.
But if we get a Department of Agriculture that's running on its own, it's its own department, then we can push it through that.
We're so blessed how smart you guys were 2 years ago when you voted in that we do have the chance now of not having one dictator that's in charge of our county in Maui, in charge of ruling of who those appointments are going to be given to, the good old boys, his family, his friends. And that's the reality where we're at right now, is that there are 9 council members that are independent thinkers, independent minds, instead of one person having the final say. So it has the mayor appoints these people, but all the departments, but now the people, or the 9 members, decide if it's okay or not. So they trump everything. So it's whatever the vote is on the council, and the mayor he's got to be happy. He's got to get another person if we don't like that person.
I'm not happy, and he's not working with us. At the beginning of this term.
He's so disconnected
Well,
from the council.
this was the first time that the council had that approval over the directors. So I went
That's
to
so
see him,
brilliant. That was such a
and
brilliant
I
move.
said, Mike, we got to be working together. And if you want to sit down and talk about who I think is not going to get reappointed, let's just get them off the table now, so we don't have to put them through that. Nobody wants to put someone up on the stand and ask them a bunch of pointed questions and make them feel bad and look stupid on the stand.
On
This
live
is-
TV, yeah.
Yeah, and he's just like, no, I did my job, you do yours. I'm not going to talk to you about that. I'm not working with you on that. That was his attitude.
Yeah.
We're trying to find the best
A
person.
nice
to-
collaborator.
Yeah, we're trying to find the
That's-
best person that's qualified, that agrees that they want to do the job, and that we'd love them to do it.
Yeah.
And you can't even have that
He's like,
conversation.
nope, I've already got my friends in there, so
Yeah.
don't need you.
And
you
I have a
guys
friend
take-
right
you guys
behind that
take 'em
friend,
out.
so if you don't want this friend, the next friend will come in.
And that is why I'm actually running for council, is for those very reasons, because the nonprofits I work with go into the departments, and all of the people that work in the departments see what needs to happen, and they're like, our department head changed everything, or our department head isn't approving it, or so you have all these well-meaning people that just have this bottleneck that gets stuck into those.
Yeah, and that was
in the
one of the things that
departments.
Victorino ran on, was customer service. We're going to make things run
It's
faster.
Oh,
it has
that-
gotten
He
yeah.
doesn't. He
worse. How
has
did
no
it
idea
possibly
what a
get
We're
worse?
customer
so
is.
happy. That was such good words. But yeah.
How did I really was like, how could this get worse? And it
Got
was-
worse.
it did.
I didn't think he could be worse than
I know.
Arakawa, but he is.
We kind of been knocking tourism because I was born and raised here, and I went through the period of the 60s to where, all we had was pineapple and sugar.
Yep.
And then tourism came, and then it went through the growth of tourism in the 70s. And, in before the 60s, we didn't have enough population nor even enough taxation to afford a police department. Look at the police department's growth. So the strength of your community is measured by the social services that the community can
Right.
provide.
Right.
And so where we've come from in the 60s, going through the booming and awareness years in the 70s, the creation of the Maui Visitors Bureau, of trying to bring and attract and market more visitors. And then it got to the point they realized they needed to attract quality.
Right.
Yeah, and that's why they push golfing, they push weddings, tourists that would spend more
Right.
in dollars.
And that's when the resorts became these posh
Right,
resorts with
right.
$1 million
Right.
worth of art in them.
And so now we've evolved. Here we are,
Into the timeshare era.
2020. Yeah, we're in the 2020 period, and we're going, okay,
Because
We-
the growth
we-
of tourism is here, and the social services are still
right,
here.
and we're
Right.
there, and so
I gotta take notes
so
real quick.
I'm sharing people and saying
This is all being recorded. Just
the
so
federal
Get my
government.
phone out of it.
you're going to get
The
it.
federal government has given us the hint of how to handle this. What do they do with Haleakala National Park
Right.
at sunrise? When it's too full, they say, no can come.
Right.
We're full.
Make reservations.
Make reservations, right?
Come back
And
another
according
day.
to the reservations, they fill it up and they say, the park is closed.
Yeah.
The federal government is giving us a hint of what we must do for our island. At a certain point, we got to say the capacity of tourism is nearing full. The quality of life is balance of the balance of quality of life for the residents and the quality of an experience of a vacation on Maui or Maui County with the visitors. How do we find that balance?
And it's working too. They just came and did a report to the council last
Yeah.
week, and they talked about that reservation system and how much it's working. And
Right.
you know, they have exactly the number of cars that can fit in their parking lot, and they don't have people walking all over where the silver swords are and the nene.
Yep.
So it's actually working.
Yeah,
You know,
so
and it's
how do we
paying for whatever extra personnel
Yeah,
they need to
yeah.
manage those cars.
so how do we learn from that and apply it to the operations of the county?
Yeah.
Yeah, and what is the level of tourism capacity?
Right.
You know, we need to address that.
Well, it's going to be different for different attractions, but we have in our island plan, you know, there's the prescription for how many tourists should be here
Right.
compared to how many residents there are, and we're way over that. So at some point, we should have stopped and said, wait, we're over.
We were having too much fun.
We were raking in the dough.
It
People were
actually
making
happened
tons of
pretty
money.
quickly though, and I pulled the statistics for all tourist-based economies in the world, and we are the third highest per capita
Wow.
in the
Maui.
world.
Or Hawaii.
Maui.
Oh, Maui.
Maui specifically, we are the highest in the United States tourism destination. So it's like compared to Las Vegas. So I didn't take Nevada as a whole.
Wow,
just
we're
Las
compared to
Vegas.
Las Vegas.
Los Angeles. We have the highest annual tourism visit per capita, and that's never really, even more so than Oahu, of course. And it's not addressed. The only two other places that are higher than us are two small Caribbean nations that have cruise ships come every single day.
So how we slow it down and how we
Well,
stop it in
well,
its tracks
I guess we did it with the
with the
pandemic.
pandemic.
It's giving us a
So
hint.
we've done it.
No,
Not
it's
in the
also
best
giving
way.
us that
A hint,
opportunity
yes.
to do the studies,
Right.
to do the environmental changes,
Perfect
to have the evidence
Yes.
of it. If you cut this down, this
Right.
is the effect. This will change the quality of life for our people and the environment. Yeah. So now you got to address the economics of tourism, the
Right.
balance of the economics. For example, if we take Ka'anapali only, the resort only, that resort, just in those hotels, vacation rentals, condominiums, and restaurants in that resort area, brings in well over 2.1 billion with a B
Yep.
dollars for them.
Just that little.
For
But
them.
it doesn't stay here.
No.
Yes.
It goes
No.
into their bank account
For
on the
them.
mainland.
For them.
For
and
their
what do they
investors
give?
and a bank
And
from
so
the
what do they
mainland, yeah.
give Maui? How do we collect?
Right.
You go do the research.
equal share.
What's the current tax rate now for
For
hotels?
hotels.
It's 11.
11.
No, we gave them a break. It's 1070 now.
1070. So we got to balance, like, okay,
Right.
what do we, Maui County, get, in exchange? And then aggressively, we must really look at the TAT. How do we aggressively receive what we're supposed to be getting
Right.
in the TAT? I look at the Sheraton Black Rock issue. When there's drownings or near drownings, who's got to respond? The lifeguards got to respond, the firemen respond, the police respond, somebody's got to file the report, ambulance response, but that's not a county expense, but all the others all come from whose expense?
Right.
The taxpayers.
You got to give back more, is all
Yeah.
what you're saying.
And so
Yeah.
we pay to save a person in whose jurisdiction?
The
in
hotels.
the ocean?
The hotels.
No, whose jurisdiction is the ocean?
The state.
It's the
The state.
states. But the county responds to a state's jurisdiction. So that's why the TAT comes in. The transient accommodation is supposed to come back to us to
Right.
cover all these expenses.
But it goes to Oahu.
It doesn't come.
It we used to get a portion of. We're not even getting
We're
a
not-
portion
Oh, we're
now
not. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
because they're taking it all because they're so broke.
They
Because
want it
of
for the rail.
Because of the rail. Yeah.
Well, no, it wasn't just the rail because we were still getting a portion of it last year before the pandemic. Once
Yeah.
the
It's just because
pandemic
all
hit-
of their revenue is based off of income on the state, and our revenue is based off of property tax. So
Right.
as soon as you have decreased income
The
revenue,
reason
then
that
they
it
have
doesn't,
no.
it's not coming back to the community because that's the failure. It's going to the
Well, it's
state,
their
which is a
prerogative.
lawsuit.
That's
Well,
the
one of the
problem.
problems
It's
with
they
our
can-
property tax is it's supposed to be based on the value of your property. As soon as we hit this pandemic, all the hotels started complaining that we're not making any money, so we can't pay our property taxes. Well, if our property taxes were based on your income, then in the past, when your
We
income
should have
was up
made a
here,
lot of
we should
money.
have been
Made a
getting
lot
10
more.
times what
Yes,
we were
good
getting
point.
before.
Oh, wow.
So we didn't take from you when your business was good. So why do you want us to give back to you now that your business is bad?
Right.
Property taxes
You're
are
so
not
fair,
based on
Kelly
revenue.
King. I love you.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
And that's something that that probably needs to be addressed because of
Absolutely.
this. Like when they're doing really well, we don't see any of that, but when they're doing poorly, we all
Violins
suffer.
come
the
out.
same
Yes,
way.
yes, yes. Well, you know, I mean, so I've been able to sit away, sit back for the last term, and for me, I'm more focused. I'll be honest that after getting the results of losing in the election, going through small kind PTSD and going like, what happened? My visits and meditation came back to me, and he said, no, your job was accomplished. We woke up the citizenry. We represented the Aloha Aina people, and we represented the Kanaka people of this land. For the very first time on a county council, the majority of the 9 sitting members, for the very first time, there were 5 Hawaiian-blooded county council members. From statehood to then. That was, and do people recognize that we have people that have the native blood flowing through their veins that are now sitting at the table actively participating,
what
not
five-
necessarily always in
Right.
line.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
and
who
not-
are those 5 people?
Not
Because-
always in line, but
But at
you
least
know,
they're there
it's
at
there.
the table
and
and they're
so
helping make
so
decisions.
the goal
right.
is just allowing the indigenous people of this land to continue to have that opportunity of representation.
right.
Absolutely.
With that, and accepting my role, is now to say, how do we feed our people?
Right.
How do we lower 2 things? How do we lower the imports of food to our islands and address the issue of food security, as well as how do we address affordable housing? And it's through through the efforts of the recent potential grant fundings of addressing agriculture. The charter amendment, the proposed charter amendment to create a Department of Agriculture. As I shared to several people before, I said, this concept of having a Department of Agriculture for the county is not a new nor a novel idea. Through the 6,000, I don't know how many counties there are in NACO, close to 7,000 counties throughout the entire nation, I would guess that there's at least close to a third of those counties that already have a Department of Agriculture. Why? Because a larger environment of community is rural. They are rural communities that the counties have to look after the economic development and economic future opportunities of their local farmers because they're from rural communities. Maui is still a rural, yes, we have Ka'anapali, Wailea, we have designated resort locations. But if you erase those resort locations along the shoreline,
We are rural.
we are rural.
Right.
We are country. And so, we should, as a county, be supporting the small local family farmers. And not only have, like the food we eat, we need to know the genealogy of that food. Who grew it? Where did it come from?
How was it grown?
Yeah. So now, especially, and going, okay, it's okay to, put chemical poison on this food and turn around and serve it to your babies. You know, this is a crazy world that we have.
Growing food with deadly poison.
I
So
think
grown, not flown. That's the biggest word that
Well,
we can.
you know, one of the things that people should realize is that we need, it doesn't have to be a Department of Agriculture. We need an Office of Agriculture. We've only ever had one ag coordinator, and it's never been a specialist or somebody who's actually been active in
Right.
coming out and proposing policies and getting funding. It's always been sort of a placekeeper, you know.
Right.
They've been
Right.
nice guys, but they haven't really been proactive. So, you know, if this doesn't pass, there's nothing that holds the next mayor up from saying, I'm going to create an Office of Agriculture, because that doesn't take a charter amendment.
right.
And that doesn't even take an ordinance. You can just create an office. You have to get some funding, so you have to go through the budget process to get funding. But we could have staff in an Office of Agriculture that could have been doing all this stuff, but it hasn't.
Right.
Nobody's been willing to do that, and that's why the proposal for the department, because that's a statement that it's that important to us. It's as important as housing. We have a department for housing. It's as important as wastewater. We have a department of
Right.
environmental management that does wastewater. It's at that same level of importance of all of the different departments. That's a statement that we had to make, because no previous mayor would put the time and
Would be
energy
willing to do
into
that.
creating an Office of Agriculture that will be proactive and help the small farmers, help you guys write grants,
Yeah.
help you change policy
Can you
that makes it
imagine-
easier for you to farm.
Can you-
Well, the other thing is that we haven't invested in agriculture. And the reason why we got up to this, all our eggs in the tourism basket, is because we've been giving them $3 to $4 million a year for I don't know how many decades, but
To promote it.
but
Wait,
no
wait,
other
like this,
island,
training
no
tour guides.
other county gives their visitors bureau anywhere near what we've been giving ours. So of course that's the biggest industry here. If we had been putting $4 million a year into agriculture, can you imagine where we'd be today? We'd be leading the curve on food security. And then we just started doing that last year with this new progressive council. We started putting more money into agriculture.
Right.
And we're starting to see more people coming out farming, more people interested in it. It still needs more support,
Yep.
because we're trying to catch up to where we were. But putting all that money into tourism is why all of the jobs went to tourism. And now we're in a pickle, because now we're in this pandemic where no tourists are coming. We did it to ourselves.
Right. We
We
trained too
committed-
many tour guides.
We
That's all. I can
committed
say that
all
over
of
and
our
over
money
again.
to tourism, and we
Trained
didn't
too many tour
diversify our
Well,
economy.
I think the equation now, after going through this COVID experience, and if we move out of it, the equation now should also include, and the challenge would be, how do we lower our imports? Yeah, of what we're bringing in and we're eating and consuming, of that, what can we grow? And so that we can move towards a zero net import. You know, the study was at a given time every month, 60-40 is the split. 60% of tomatoes come from the mainland. 40% of tomatoes are here every month. And so my goal for tomato growers is, okay, if you're not going to be a fresh tomato grower or just become a salsa maker, you grow salsa. So that the use of tomato flips, or at least get to 50-50.
Right.
And that 10% change just on that produce is enough
Just lifts that
to
burden on
keep,
her. Yep.
to keep some small farmer alive. Let's go the next cycle, watermelon. Watermelon, 80-20 during the summer months. 80% still come from the mainland, 20% from locally grown. But guess what? From November, December, January, February, March, April, 6 months, 0, 0. 0 imports, 0 grown.
Why?
So why not take
seasonal.
that knowledge, and in certain places like very hot, very dry,
Kihei,
yeah,
here.
yeah, grow watermelon during the winter. You know, flip it, and so.
Can you drink too much watermelon, anybody? I love it.
So
It's
I've
the
asked,
best
I'm
green
allergic
drink.
to it.
we've been asking for the study. We've been asking for the study. Only guy who did it was Billy Kinoy when he was mayor on the Big Island, who did the study as to what are we bringing in, produce by produce, what is the consumption level, volume level, which would equate to the amount of acreage level that we need to be planting. And then now share it with the farmers and say, hey, this is the site. But we need to, so the state of Hawaii has a strategic ag plan, and I saw it. And they have the data, but they don't release it.
No.
They don't release it to the people because they're accommodating the big food supply chain guys that's bringing in the bulk of the produce. I'm going, hey, if you represent, so this is where, if the state doesn't want to represent the local county guy, the county can represent us and say, here's a study. This is the produce by produce. This is the window that you choose which produce you want to grow. There is opportunity.
And we have to set the farms up so that they can diversify, so that they can grow different things and not monocropping. So right now we don't have diverse enough systems set up so that they can switch easily from one crop to another. That's really what one of the things we have to invest in.
Yeah.
And the other thing we have to do is we've got to, and I'm working on the Maui Nui Food Alliance steering committee. So what we're working on is trying to fund a baseline study so we can see what, we don't even really know how much food we have here. Everybody says 85% is imported or 90% is imported. When that doesn't take into account the 70,000 access deer running around, or the pigs and the chickens and the goats,
Or my
all of
family
the-
eating most of
or
our
all of the backyard
food out of
gardens.
our
We
family.
haven't done an
Yeah.
inventory of all the backyard gardens or all the community gardens. So we have way more food than we even know about that we haven't categorized. If we could find a way to commercialize it or at least make it okay for hunters to sell access deer. I eat it all the time because I have friends that give it to me. I eat more access deer than I do any other kind of meat, but you wouldn't be able to sell it to the restaurant. That's the problem. Is it's got to go through this USDA thing. We've got to figure out a way.
That's where a Department of Agriculture would be
exactly.
amazing. And they talk, and there was actually a great article that talked about how Los Angeles became an agriculture.
Yeah.
Did you see
Yeah,
that
I
article?
saw that. Yeah.
Los Angeles, yeah.
Well,
Yes.
it's how it started out a long time ago, being rural and being all about agriculture.
And how it's an economic cultural shift. So it's not just an economic shift, but we have to change the culture of how we consider our economy. And places, and I've looked at these counties that have departments of agriculture, and I've also looked in other countries that are agriculture based, such as New Zealand, and they have specific county departments of agriculture. And it changes how everything is addressed. And I think that's scary for people. They're like, I don't know, and I don't want all this money spent needlessly. But as soon as you devote that energy to it, it blossoms, it flourishes. And you find no counties in the United States, there are agriculture successful counties that do not have a county department of agriculture. It has to happen. You cannot rely on the state for that. You cannot rely on a state to cover some of the largest area in the whole United States and have help available for everyone.
Look at what tourism. We have a Hawaii Tourism Authority at
But
the
we
state
still have a
level.
And we still have
And
a
we have a
Maui.
hotel and lodging at the state level, and we still have a local Maui
Exactly.
hotel and lodging, Maui Tourism Bureau. Well, and that's how we grew tourism, because we focused on it.
Right.
We invested in that group. So let's do that with agriculture. I don't understand why it's so hard to explain that the state is not doing us justice.
Plus, Alika explained the reality that we talked about years ago, and that was how much fruits and vegetables need to go to schools.
Right.
And that is such a failure that those fruits and vegetables are coming from the mainland to
Right.
feed the schools.
The
for our
number
local
one,
people.
the number one produce, number two produce that the Department of Education school lunch program purchases, 5 million pounds of apples and 5 million pounds of orange.
And they bid on it or contract every year.
They have a
But
contract
again,
every year.
it's because we don't have the ability to process large amounts of fruit. If we I think that was you that was saying, if you have 5,000 acres of mangoes, awesome.
Right?
Well,
But how do we process all
But the
those? How
first
do we
thing is
pull
to
them?
break it down so that there is a contract for Maui, not the
Right.
state of Hawaii.
Right.
That's why they can't bid on it, because it's not. No one's asking for a contract for mangoes for the island of
Maui.
Molokai
It's-
or mangoes for even the island of Maui. They're asking for the whole
whole-
entire
The whole state.
Yeah.
You know, and that doesn't. That's going to be somebody from the mainland that's going to supply that. And you're going to have mangoes from Mexico. So once we break it down so that we're focusing on our local schools and we're local supply for local schools, not only are we going to be able to use local farmers for that, but if something happens and there's a recall, we know exactly where it came from.
Right.
It didn't come from some, pork or
Mainland,
some
yeah,
pig farm
yeah,
in
yeah.
Nebraska.
Yeah.
He came from, you know, uncle down the road. Or what's wrong? Let's go talk to uncle.
I think there's a big benefit if we
Yeah.
have a local county department of agriculture that they can work aligned with the schools. Although they're state function, they can still be aligned to supply the local Department of Education schools.
Well, they can press for that because it's not, the county itself has no reason to
Right.
go press for that. But if you're Department of Agriculture, you're going to look for those
Right.
pukas and you're going to find a way where you can have those papaya put into the
Right.
schools instead
And
of
you know,
the
if we
apples
stay on
coming
the
in.
same course that we're staying on for with these getting more progressive people in office at the state and county level, we can make those things happen because we're starting to, in the last, I mean, since you and I got on, was kind of the start of it, working across different levels of government. When I got onto the council the first time, and I don't know if you felt the same way, Alika, there were council members that were on there that were saying, let the state stay to itself and the counties keep to ourselves, and we, you know, don't even cross paths and don't talk to each other. And I'm like, that is so wrong. Of course we need the state. Of course we need the feds. We need to be working together. Every year we get letters from Brian Schatz sends them out. Tulsi Gabbard used to send them out. Ed Case, and I think Maisie does too, asking the county, and it goes to all council members, what do you need, you know, before their budget process? I'm usually the only one that answers that. And I sent a letter back to Brian Schatz, and I put in, and they like big numbers. If you tell them, you know, and one of cesspools was one of the, you know, cesspool replacement, I said, we need a minimum of 150 million to get started. At the federal level, if you ask them for 5 million, that's like, they don't even look at that. That's like couch change.
Yep.
So you got to go big. But we do need that kind of money. We do need that kind of money to replace our cesspools. But nobody's talking to them, you know, and even just going to the state. And when I went to the state last year and talked to the office that handles the state revolving fund, they said, no one ever from Maui ever comes and talks to us. And it's a good thing you're here because we can put your projects on the list, and then they move up the list that way. But nobody ever comes here. You guys never ask for money until you need it like that, and then it's
Right.
too late. So that crossover is starting to happen. This year, you know, I was at a table at some function, the senior luncheon or something with Angus McKelvey, and he was so excited. He's like, I can't believe it, Kelly. We're working together. You know, and he was really excited because it hadn't happened before.
We've heard some good stuff about Angus recently too, I think, yeah?
Yeah, I think he's
Yeah,
coming aligned, you know, I mean.
And I'm working with Tina Wildberger in Kihei, so, you know, on the school issues. So, you know, she's helping on some of the county issues. I'm helping her on the school. We're trying to press for that underpass. So I think the lines are getting a little less, you know, strident, and they're getting blurred, and we're able to cross over and talk about state issues on the county level and vice versa. Whereas, and so if we keep going in this direction, we can get so much more done working together than we could just like making everybody stay in their corner.
You know, I think we may be a little late, but I think it's not too late to be joining on a state with our state legislators from the county's perspective and say, okay, next session, what are some real things that collectively both bodies can work towards in presenting, and now is the time, I guess, you know, to get that on the dockets and in the plans.
Right.
So that there is some addressment of needed issues,
Right.
you know.
And I think it just, again, comes from a lower population. We still operate as though our population is very small. And yet we have this enormous population. And then if you account for all of the tourists that are normally
Right.
here, it's this monstrous, huge thing that we're trying to do constantly. So there is no way to go forward except working with the state.
Right.
And having access to those funds and having access to federal funds also. And they like creativity, and they like to support things that are going to have positive results. It's not a stingy situation. It's that we can come and say, this is what we want to do. This is what the positive difference this is going to make. This is the data that we have that backs us up. And then those funds can come. And again, going back to that Department of Agriculture, if we had an advocate here in the county, then we could see a lot, and it doesn't have to be the county throwing money at it constantly. It's actually having access to the money that is available elsewhere.
Yeah, they could be working with the Farm Service Agency. They could be working with NRCS. NRCS has so many grants that farmers don't even know about. And even if they did know about it, they don't have the wherewithal, they don't have
Yeah.
somebody on staff to sit
And
down and
that's-
write a grant. They
And
need
that's the
that
role.
help.
That's the role that the county person, because every day I'm hooked up on the USDA
Right.
farm emails, and every department in the USDA sends offerings
Right.
of millions,
Right.
of billions of opportunities. And so, if a department was there collecting that and then sending it out,
Yeah.
and saying, "Hey, these are opportunities." Do we even know about it? Do we even hear about
Well,
it?
it's so overwhelming too. So a department of somebody who's representing agriculture at the local level could go through those and say, okay, here's the category for the really small farmers. Here's
Right.
the category for livestock. Look at these grants.
Right.
If you're doing just vegetables, look at these grants. If
Right.
you're doing agriculture for biofuels or something, look at these grants. And
Right.
help us decipher through, because I get those same the
Right.
emails from Faith Umetsu.
Right.
There's like emails up the wazoo, and you have to go
Yeah.
through all of them to try to figure out what applies to me or my farm or
Right.
or what some activity that I'm doing. It's overwhelming, and that's when they're trying to do their farm work and
Right.
grow vegetables.
Trying to run a business
Yeah.
and do all of that. Well, that's why it kills me that they sent these out saying Maui Nui can't afford it, because the reality on the charter amendments is they're all there to save Maui money.
Money,
and
right.
That's why it was an interesting marketing tactic by this super PAC from the mainland to say that we can't afford it, kind of playing on our collective county fears of more money being spent needlessly, when in reality all those amendments are there to save us money overall.
Did you notice they left out the amendments that they're talking about that everybody should vote no on? They don't even tell people what it is. It's
Right.
so ridiculous. It's such a money grab.
It's a power grab.
It is.
It's an attempt to just keep power in the hands of people who make a lot of money
Through their connections.
through their
And they
connections.
mislead and be deceitful, and it's okay in society.
Right.
Look what it says in the back. Look at this right here. It says, "Don't vote your rights away." And if anything, by leaving
That's
it the
another
way that it
hilarious-
is, oh my
Well, by
God.
voting, you're exercising your right.
You're
Well,
exercising
yes,
your right.
you're
If you don't
exercising your
vote-
right. Yeah.
If I were to say that what the seven charter amendments are attempting to achieve is higher representation and a more accurate democracy in our county, more self-rule, and saving money.
Yes.
And those are the
Efficiency.
two, and
Don't
they
you love her?
know,
Don't
they
you love
know
her?
that's what we want. They know that's what the county wants, and so they're
Yes,
very
Asia, that's
ironically
beautiful.
going against it. But that's what they're there for. That's all those
So-
charter
She is
amendments are
very
for.
eloquently.
So it's kind of funny that they use the face or picture of
The $100
The
bill.
slave trader. The
Benjamin
slave trader.
Franklin, the same guy's face that's on the $100 bill.
And the slave
Yeah.
trader. He owned slaves.
So it's funny because it's really all about the Benjamins.
I know.
It is.
Yes.
It's
It
all
is.
about the money. So you guys out here in
They're-
TV land,
They're laughing. They're laughing.
I
at
say,
it.
don't vote no, vote yes on all the charter amendments.
7. charter
Don't
amendments.
believe BS.
Now, the opportunity is so great right now to do systemic change,
change.
in our government, and that will last us. That will make us more cohesive. The reports, the studies that you look at for the cost of turnover are like 1.5 times someone's salary. So if we can manage to get a good team on, and we can keep the same directors multiple years, they don't all have to go away with the mayor. Managing director doesn't have to go away. Think of how much money we save just having
And
those
how
good
much they can
people stay.
accomplish because they've been in there. They know
Right.
exactly what they're
Right.
doing. And,
I think that's the problem, is that when something makes too much sense, the arguments against it are just ridiculous, and they're
a good
designed to
point.
pull at your heartstrings, and
They
talk
they
about
only have
things like-
emotion. They have
Yeah.
to elicit some sort of emotion because the intelligence there isn't any intelligent way to convince someone to do that.
Right.
So they are just really, but why did they pick the two things that the charter amendments are attempting to do? I don't know. I mean, there's another one that comes out and says, don't take away the mayor's power.
No.
And that, that's kind of going at a different way. But again, we're trying to have more representation, and especially as our population is larger, so that each separate community, I mean, they're not separate, we're all together in the county, but each community has more say in what's happening on the county level. And that's what those amendments are there for.
Mm-hmm.
And they save us a ton of money. They potentially save us a ton of money. And they boost our economy because they put attention in the places that we need more attention. And that, I mean, the county managing director usually isn't put forth as something that will help diversify our economy, but it will, because I work with small businesses. I'm a small business consultant. And the biggest challenge for small businesses here is finding a way through the regulations, through the departments, to be able to do the things that they know would support the economy. It's a big challenge. And there's not a lot of clear paths. It's a lot of confusion a lot of times. And it's not because we don't have great people working for the county. We have some of the smartest people on the island working for the county. It's just that there isn't this teamwork between the departments in order to help support our economy to move forward when it's something that's new or creative or a new technology that we're trying to bring there. The departments don't have that central leadership and cooperation to help our
there's
businesses
not the big
get
vision,
through.
and what's really missing is the strategic planning, the long range planning that has to happen in each department. Where are we going strategically? What are the objectives and the tasks that we have to do to get there? And what are the benchmarks that let us know that we're on track? If you look at the performance measures in the budget, they're all about just what do we think we can do this year. It's not like what should we strive for, what kind of goals should we try to attain. And if you don't get all the way there, that's fine. There's all kinds of external reasons why things don't happen the way they're supposed to, but you should be trying to get better every year. You should be trying to make more progress, be more efficient, get more done with what you have. And that's really not in the wheelhouse right now. If you look at the budget, it's really about put in there what you think you can do, because
What can we catch up with? What can we to-do list?
Yeah, then you'll be successful and you can
Right.
check it off. And the measures that we're using are, kind of make it clear to me as someone who's done strategic planning in our business for 15 years, that we're not looking at where we need to be, what we need to achieve at every step of the way to get to the main goal. What I've seen used as benchmarks is how many meetings we have. That means we're successful. How many phone calls? Well, this year we took 150 phone calls, so we did. If the end goal, and I saw this in Corp Council's main goal, which is to reduce the number of lawsuits against the county by holding workshops and doing public education. And the way they measure that is how many workshops they held and how much public education. The goal should
How
be
many lawsuits?
The goal should be stated: reduce the number of lawsuits against Maui County. Period. That's the goal. Now the objectives to get there, could include things like staff development. They could include things like public education. They could include but the end goal that you should be measuring is not how many meetings you held. It's did you reduce that number of lawsuits?
Preventive maintenance.
That
Well,
just
that-
nails it on the head. That is the
That's
strategy.
what's missing from
right?
our
Yes.
county is those strategic goals and
To
long-term
prevent
goals.
the failure.
So, maybe you're not going to reach that in 4 years during this mayor's term, but you're going to be able to go on beyond this mayor, and you'll have, you'll have time as long as you're on track with where your strategic baseline benchmarks are. And because we don't have that, every 4 years there's a potential for, we're not doing that
Starting
anymore.
over.
Now we're going this direction,
Starting
and
over.
And I think that's the perfect argument for a managing director.
Right.
A professional person who is there and assigned that task, and as the managing director, he manages each department through that process, through that strategic planning, through that measurement of moving the needle. Have we been able to manage our county business and improve it every way? And there is exactly what you're saying. How do we measure that?
Are we getting closer to that balance that you talked about earlier, where
right.
we are meeting the
Yeah, hiring a professional manager is the secret.
right.
And that's so important. It's those Department of Ag and County Manager are my biggest pet peeves on the 7. There's 7 new amendments that need to be voted on. I hope that everybody will research what they are. It's really easy. So, Maui Pono.
Maui Pono Network has information on it. MauiManagingDirector.com has information on it.
My
There's-
Facebook page, I did the webinar on the charter
And
amendments.
Kelly King on
yeah.
Facebook. Kelly
Maui,
King.
yeah, it's Kelly King, Maui County Council.
Asia,
Facebook
I have
page.
information on mine also. Also, Maui Justice has information. You can always reach
There's
out.
no
to,
lack of information. The
Right.
Office of Council Services did a very, kind of milquetoast, very objective
Yes.
look at the charter amendments. And it means this if you vote yes, it means that if you vote no. and that's on the county website, mauicounty.us. If you go
Who
to
did it?
our Office of
Oh,
Council
your office.
Services.
Okay. Oh,
So
Council
the
Services.
Council Services is just, their objective. They're not on one side or the other, and they just put together a very objective look at
Wow,
all
I
of
haven't
it.
seen it. Can I?
It's on the
yeah.
website, the
I'll talk to you about it.
mauicounty.us. Don't go to .gov because that's the administration's website. The
Right.
council's website is mauicounty.us.
For me, animal time. So I just say, vote yes.
Yes is best.
Yeah.
Well, and yes, is we've elected council members to represent the people. They voted unanimously for 7 amendments.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable that we were
Well,
able.
we didn't vote. It wasn't unanimous.
There were two.
You need 6
How much
votes.
unanimous? What was the vote?
You need 6 votes to get something on the ballot, and we never got a unanimous vote.
But there were 7 for everyone, right? Wasn't it 7 out of 9? I was just looking at this.
Yeah,
and 6
there
to
were
9.
there were a couple that were 6 to 9. I would say the Department of Agriculture was 6 to 9, and
That's a majority in my
6
book.
to 6 to 3.
Yes.
But that's a majority in my book.
Yeah, but it's
so-
not unanimous.
Not unanimous, but
Unanimous.
okay, so the word unanimous doesn't need to be there. But the
Yeah.
majority of the people that we have serving the public's best interest agreed.
It
And
was,
they also
it was a really a feat to
and they're
get 6
also-
votes for those.
and they're also the same 6 when it came to the vote against the Supreme Court, fighting the Supreme Court. How many people were that? 5.
We had 5.
5.
5.
Yep.
Okay, that's really important.
Yeah.
Yeah, and why not 6 and 7, 8 and 9, when they're agreeing to allow them to still pollute our INA, our local coastal waterways? That they said that it was perfectly okay to do that and not fix the problem. They could fix it so many ways. They can fix it. So that's just unbelievable. So
Political will.
it shows us the money,
thing you need
but
is
it shows us
political
the
will.
money from the mainland, the dark money that came here to allow that to happen. Because nobody here would have done it.
Well,
It started with us here, but it ended with them. Is that correct? The way the
no,
story
all the
goes?
money came from Maui. The money was appropriated through the previous councils.
to fight the lawsuit.
Right.
It was appropriated through our tax dollars.
Yeah.
Our tax dollars paid for them to fight the Supreme Court, who finally ruled in the favor of the people, which means that they will not
And you know,
screw up the Clean Water Act.
the silver lining on all of this is because the Supreme Court ruled this way on it, it actually helps the rest of the country. So in some ways, even though
Amen.
it's painful for us,
Amen.
and I think we need to take this as kind of one of our banners that we march forth into battle and say, you know what, Maui needs to be the world leader in environmental causes. It needs to be the world leader in inviting tourism, but also equalizing what we provide for our residents because of tourism.
Right.
And we have this opportunity to do it. And even though we have a large population here and it seems very crowded, it's actually manageable. And we're fairly unified on a lot of things. As a county, we really believe a lot of the same things, and we get caught up in those little nuances, those little political fights. But really, our neighbors, our Hana, the people we work with, we agree on these core values, and we have the opportunity to do that. And instead of, I don't think we should look back on the injection wells. I think we need to look forward and say, that was unfortunate that happened,
Good.
and how are we not going to allow
the
things
problem
like
is
that to
it's
happen?
not over yet. The mayor's
No.
still taking
I
it back
loved
to
it,
district
yeah.
court. So that's the problem. That's why we can't get rid of it yet.
No, but
So there's
we
too
need to
much money
turn, and
behind it.
everybody needs to push in that direction and say, it was unfortunate that we continued to fight up to the Supreme Court, but what it did is we became an opportunity for other people to win their arguments because they ruled that way. And even though they're appealing
we did,
it,
and it was wonderful, but it was taking a big chance once they got, Brett Kavanaugh on the
Right.
Supreme Court. I mean, I was that gave me a lot of hope with the fact that he wrote the prevailing argument, that he voted
Yes.
in favor of the Clean
Right.
Water Act. That was, yay for us, but it was scary.
right,
Really,
right.
because it was the Trump's Supreme Court. Are they going to uphold it or not? And that's why I was so focused on getting it off the Supreme Court docket, because I was so worried about that. But,
I'm so happy that it made it through because I didn't think it was either. I didn't think
I'm
it was
going to be
go through.
I'm going to be the
Devil's
positive
advocate.
line here because I'm a moderate progressive, and I think that what is happening is people are finally realizing that our greatest asset is our natural resources, and if we don't protect open spaces and clean water at all costs, we have nothing else. There's nothing else for us. There is no economy. You can't say money over environment because if you remove that, there's no hold.
Yeah.
And I think that we need to depoliticize environmentalism and say
Yes.
that everyone who is of sound mind and and looks at it with a clear, unpoliticized voice can see that there is one right way. There is one right way through this.
How will the next generations judge us is something that we're not using in our experience of these mistakes that have happened in our past.
Not how will they, how are they judging us now? Because they're starting to rise up. They're getting involved. That's the best thing that could happen is the next generation. We're leaving what we leave to the next generation.
We have to.
And they need to rise up right now, and they need to say, what the hell are you guys doing to us?
Yes.
Because it is getting, this makes it political.
Yes.
Right.
When big money goes in like this, that's when you get political, and it gets away from what I think are our common values. Because we all want the same thing. How we get there is where the argument is. You know, we're going to get there that way by letting Nevada,
dark money.
You know, tell us what to do and direct our votes, or are we going to really, as a community, say, look at all the people pushing for the yes vote. Those are people who live here. That's grassroots. Those are people who have nothing personal to gain with having a professional county manager, having a Department of Ag, you know, changing the term limitation rules. There's nothing personal in it. I mean, it's certainly not for me. I would be, you know, term limited out. But it's giving our electorate the choice to change our government system so that we encourage professionalism, efficiency, we encourage new ideas,
civil
we
involvement.
encourage passing the torch and moving on. You can stay so involved if you want to. I mean, look at Gladys Baisa. You know, she did her term on the council, and she still stayed involved through the county, the mayor's office, through water, through. So there are a lot of ways to stay involved and share your expertise if you have, you know, 10 years worth of expertise, without continually taking up that spot on the county council, keeping our young, bright minds from getting on there.
Right. I mean, we make it enormously expensive and difficult to run for a 2-year county council office, because money comes from elsewhere to push an agenda through. And so we have to say we want to govern ourselves.
We the people have to be in charge.
We on Maui want to govern our own county, and these are a great step. This isn't going to solve everything. These charter, I'm pointing at their vote no, but the charter amendments are not they're not the 100% answer. But if we don't take these steps, we'll never get closer. We're never going to get closer to civil involvement. We're not going to get closer to better representation, to a more economical, efficient, environmentally sustaining county government. Like, I mean, this is the step. And it also bugs me that they say the pandemic is no time to make changes.
It's exactly the time to make
What
changes.
did you guys all
the
do when you got
opportunity.
locked down? Did you guys just sit in your house and sit around, or did you say, for me, I mean, I have 5 kids in my house, so I'm like, you know what, I'm going to clean out my closets, and I'm going
catch
to
up
go
on all the stuff. Yes.
I'm going to go fix the garden,
Make
and I'm
things
going
better.
we
Locally.
naturally, as humans, when we have these things happen, we want to improve what we have our jurisdiction, what we have our stewardship over. We want to improve those things through our hardship. So the pandemic is a great time because we are able to look with a more clear mind and out all the distractions at what needs to be improved.
Yeah, and our online format that we're holding council meetings and committee meetings on is engendering much more involvement than in the past, because people can call up from their living room and testify, and you know, they don't have to drive to the chambers and sit there and wait for 3 hours till their name gets called. So we're getting much more involvement, not less, because
Better
of the
contact.
because
Yeah,
of the
better
pandemic. So
communication.
people are able to see what's happening.
Exactly.
And they have time to see it.
Well,
They're at
and
home.
we're if we look at this as an opportunity to make the right changes, then we have to include the people, you know, the people's voice. So that's what we're doing here. If you lock down and say things are going to stay the same, things cannot stay the same, because staying the same is what created the situation that we're in.
Right.
So this system
Absolutely.
of government has created a lot of this turmoil, where someone like, you know, whoever's behind this vote no effort from the mainland can come in and start to try to usurp our election. So we're trying to set up a system where more people have a bigger voice, and the opportunities to turn over leadership and bring in new innovative ideas are there. I think the best thing about this current council term is that we're paying better attention to testifiers than we ever had before. there's actually interaction, and sometimes we go overboard. We ask, we're talking to testifiers trying to solve their problem right on the spot. But it's better than the way it used to be, where years ago when I used to come and testify in front of the county council as a member of the electorate, and you'd see out of the 7 heads, or 9 people, you'd see 7 heads like this.
Yes.
Sometimes they'd be like this.
Right.
Nobody was ever paying attention. Nobody ever asked you any questions or engaged
they were
you.
sleeping. Remember that?
Well, that's
one?
what I'm saying. They're not paying attention. They were
We
not
had a
even
council
hearing
member that
you.
slept a lot of the time.
They were definitely not engaging with you and your problem
No,
or
they
what
don't
you
even want to
thought.
give you eye contact.
And now it's like the total opposite.
It's very fresh. There is a lot more of a communication and a back and forth with people who come to testify, and it's a lot less intimidating.
Yeah.
It is a lot less intimidating to be. I mean, the other morning when I was on, I had a child that needed breakfast made. So I was able to hop out of the meeting, go make breakfast, come back. I didn't have to be all dressed up. I didn't have to be sitting in the chambers for 3 hours.
And relax.
And then it was my turn to come up, and I was able to hear what everyone else said, which is also really nice, and see their faces when they're testifying. That's another important thing, is that those of us sitting back in the chambers aren't just looking at the back of someone. We are all a part of that conversation. And it's much more like we're at a round table. And less like, we're coming up from the ditches and please listen to us.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because that was one of my main things when I got on the council, is I really wanted to turn the council around
Yes.
physically so that
I
we're
remember.
facing the public. And now we're doing that. All of our faces are up there
Yeah,
facing
you're right.
the public.
I didn't even notice that.
We
That's
didn't
right.
have to spend any extra money on it. But
Right.
when we go back, the way our chambers is set up, no other council in the state is like that, where you're looking at the backs of your council members. It's horrible. And then whoever's chairing the meeting
It
gets
shows
to
no respect.
sit up there on the throne,
Right.
lording
Shows
over
no
all the rest of
respect.
the council members. And that might have been good for whoever first invented the system, and they felt comfortable
Yeah,
with
he
that.
wanted to be up on his
But
pedestal.
we're public servants. We're not oligarchs or
Dictators.
dictators. So we should be in the conversation with them, not lording over it and telling people who they can and can't, what they can and can't say. I remember Dr. Pang came last term, and you might remember this, Alika, when I think it was the PEA committee, Yukile was the chair, and AMB was giving their farm plan, right, presentation. And then we had testimony, and Dr. Pang started talking about GMOs and pesticides, and she said, "You're not allowed to talk about that." And I went, "What do you mean? They're allowed to talk about anything that's on
Anything
the
they
agenda.
wanna talk about.
The farm plan is
They're
on the
in
agenda.
charge.
They're worried about, And Dr. Pang just said, "Well, I'm going to talk about pesticides, But I just sat there. I remember thinking, how dare anybody? I can see if he got up and he said, "Well, I'm going to talk about childcare." Well, no, that's not on the agenda. But anything related to that farm plan was fair game, and to be
Right.
told you're not to tell someone like Dr. Pang, especially, you're not going to be allowed to talk about those things, to me was appalling.
I love meeting in person, but I think another great thing about this is that when we are all at home doing this, and like all of my kids see me listening to council meetings and to committee meetings now. And they're like, "What are you doing?" "Oh, it's a committee meeting. I'm just kind of listening in." Whereas before it was like, that was a removed
Right.
thing. And I've noticed other people that are there on these meetings, they have,
Interactions.
their auntie, their grandma's
Yes.
back there. Like it becomes much more of the full community instead of those same 20 people that are always testifying at the
Yeah.
committee meetings. It's really kind of
We're
expanded
in your
who's
house.
there.
We're in your house.
Yeah.
You've got the council in your living room.
Yeah.
It's a much more equalizing
Right.
venue, and it makes people feel like, well, I can be a part of government. I can be,
Well,
part
in the
of
state, I don't know if you guys have been in on the state meetings, but that's also a great place to testify remotely because I don't know. It's been a lot better that way. I do think we still need a lot more transparency and clarity and getting out all of, making everything accessible. But this is the pandemic. You're totally right. This has been a great part of it, and that is just the higher level of civic involvement.
So we've got a bill in, and it's following along with OIP, and Common Cause is supporting it for once, which would change the Sunshine Law to allow us to continue this format, even if the pandemic is over.
Right.
That we can continue to hold online meetings, allow council members to vote online from the comfort of their own living room and allow people to testify like we're allowing them right now. And this is something that we, people have been trying to get done in the past
long
in just
time.
this online venue. So it took the pandemic to kick it in. And if we can continue beyond the governor's mandate that the Sunshine Law set aside and make it part of our regular life, I think we'll actually join the 21st century.
Right.
I think it's good.
Well,
We're
especially
forced into it, but it's good.
well, especially a county that it comprises multiple islands.
Yeah.
It's really been unfair to
In a remote
everybody.
area.
Especially
Hana,
unfair Hana
yeah.
and Lanai, of course.
Right.
And Molokai.
Right. Or
Yeah.
even somebody up on the up on the mountain. It is, and especially a rural county. I mean, really, a rural county should have greater access to it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That one person can call through no matter what I do to my phone.
If you have 5 kids, you're entitled. Anytime you need to have your phone.
Everybody trying to call me.
If I had 5 kids at home, I'd want to have my phone on all the time. Just
Donnie,
in
we
case.
cover?
I really enjoy this. I think that we have a destiny of helping to change that has been going on for too long, and I think that it's finally the right time, the right people at bat. We got 7 human beings that want to come up to bat. Gabe Johnson, Keani Rawlings, Carol
Carol
Kamekona.
Lee Kamekona.
Kamekona, Kelly King, Tamara PALTIN, Shane Sinenci, and Asia. That's all we got to say.
Just Asia.
Just Asia.
Just that Steely Dan album. You got to
Yes.
bring it back.
And I think that, the responsibility is that the majority has to be at least 5 out of 9 to be a majority. And I think if we got 7, this would be unbelievable life that we'd be able to accomplish our missions of life here. And I think that I appreciate you guys all coming together right now. in
7
this
is the magic
tragic
number.
time.
7's the
7 and
magic
7.
number for this,
Seven's the magic
this
number.
ballot. Yeah.
It's,
7 and
it's a
7.
lucky number for sure.
Thank you.
All right, thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you, Donnie. It was a great
I don't know how to shut this
conversation.
camera off.